this house we're born, into this world we're thrown.
Yeah, so now we're starting to catch those hands. So ace king offsuit, big slick here. Same bet size, you know, same position, same bet size. It's difficult to read if these guys are paying attention. And you know, as it's flying from table to table, also we're not really, without our stats, keeping a real eye on this. But yeah, that's always a good thing. We got the backdoor flush draw and the nut, backdoor nut flush draw, and top pair top kicker. So there's not a lot to protect against here. And I opt for a check raise, which I'm going to do from time to time as a bluff, as you guys have seen. Yeah, okay. And, you know, it's also check raise to protect against the hearts, right? We do have the one blocker, maybe a potential runner. But, yeah, that's all she wrote. You know, if another heart comes, we're sweating bullets. And check raise. You know, if you're check raising guys on the flop, you got to be check raising also when you have it. Right, that's the most important thing. Just make sure that you're making certain moves when you both have it and don't have it. That's the idea. Queen 10 suited is also a steel raise hand. Get one caller. And here, again, I'm going to go ahead and bet about, in this case I'm looking at his stack too, right? So about 1/4 of his stack, a little more, right, which is just under pot size here. And if he does anything, then we're done with that hand, even with the queen. And that was the idea with that bet size. All right, crazy eights, and we get a min raise here, and it's a mid stacker again. That's increased the stack a bit. So yeah, again, about 50 big blinds, a little less, and we just flat and bet in position versus a miss C bet on the king flop. And take it down. So here, guys, we got a walk with a king 9 offsuit, and that's always nice. Looking for the 10. Rainbow board, so any 10's good. And a king may be good, who knows, in the limp pot here. He limps, or he basically min bets here, and now I'm going to check raise this as a pure bluff. Not a pure bluff. We do have this semi bluff option here if the 10 does happen to fall. Queen did not, so if I check this and he doesn't bet it, I'll be surprised. He does not. He may be sucking us in here, but I'm going to bet that out on the river anyways and take it down with absolute nonsense. So that's, yeah, again, playing not what your hand is, but what your hand looks like. And of course, as always, that's much easier when you have stats on your players. You know how much they're folding on respective streets. But here we're playing blind, you know, kind of intuitively in the 6 max environment. And yeah, I think the ranges that I gave you guys here at the beginning of this theoretical video are definitely useful in that regard. And again, adjust them as you will, and just see, you know, see the level that you're playing, how tight it is. And another thing is, guys, on the weekend, you're going to see players that are just, you know, the tourists coming through. They're going to be much wilder. They're calling you down much lighter with any pair kind of nonsense. And yeah, I mean, the weekend play is by and large in pretty much any online card room, much more lucrative in general. Not always, but in general, right? The guys playing during the week, right? A lot of them are semi-professionals or professionals, or have at least a lot of experience. And yeah, again, it's going to be a different game during the week and on the weekend. Just definitely keep that in mind as well. That's how it is. Here I'm going to squeeze one time, 3-bet squeeze from the button. So I've got position, and I'm squeezing this player who's already doubled and this guy who may be calling lighter. That's the idea with the squeeze, and I'm squeezing kind of light here with my pair of 4s. And get flatted after he was really considering it. So he could be whiffed real easily here with over cards, and I'm going to c-bet, again, about 80-90% of all squeeze pots where I'm the squeezer. and especially in position after a check on a low board. And we take it down and contest it with our fours. That's the idea of the squeeze in position, guys. Very, very powerful. You can do that with a very wide range of hands, right? Depending on how loose the open raiser is and how loose the cold caller is. So AJ suited in the small. And we get a raise here, steal raise, and again we make a re-steal 3-bet. And we pick up the overcard flop yet again. And with our re-steal, we definitely see bet this board here. He could have missed that just as easily as we have. We can double barrel here again because nothing's changed, right? So that's the idea. I want to give him the idea that I've got an overpair, and he lets it go. And again, that's not always going to work out, guys, especially at the low stakes. These guys, you would be absolutely amazed at what they'll call with. And so, yeah, you got to be a little bit careful with your continued aggression over multiple streets. But you know, if you make a flop c-bet on a relatively low board, then you know lower card hits. You got to make I mean, 9 times in 10, maybe 8 times, 7 times in 10. You got to go ahead and take another shot there on the turn for sure. Alrighty, and here with the 45, I would have over flatted, but we'll let that go. Alright, so here we're going to flat one on the button with the off-suited Broadway versus a nil position raiser for hopefully a cheap flop. We do flop the king, and again, that's a really dangerous board, right? You could be raising with 5s and 7s, of course, better kings. Here I'm just going to raise it directly, see where we stand in position, and take it down. Again, you know, flatting in position with the speculative hand, or weaker hand, say, and yeah, making a move post flop in position. And that's kind of the determining factor in a lot of my speculative plays, whether or not it's suited or not. Kind of giving myself away if I ever play you guys in the future. But yeah, it's all good. So we 3-bet here to steal the button, and we do. So we get last position with our raise plus initiative, and flop nonsense. He checks it. We represent the king with our c-bet and take it down and contest it with a complete whiff. It's the power of the c-bet in position. Alright, 44. We're hoping to hit that set this time and get a little action. 40, and we're going to re-steal. Just over 3 times this time. Here, guys, we over cold call that, and now I'm going to bet into it as a semi-bluff versus all these guys, because we do have the nut flush draw here, and we're looking at a couple of small stackies that could shove and get us in good if these guys decide to fold. The big stacks fold, right? And now I can shove all in here and think my ace is also good. So with all that dead money, I like that play. We'll see if we can't catch that. Wow. Alright guys, king queen here. I'm going to flat this thinking that I'll buy the button just with the flat. And I do have position then post flop. See what flops. And here we pick up the open-ended straight draw. And again, you want to play your open-ended straight draws more often than not when it's a non-suited board. Basically, rainbow boards are very good for that. They're also very good for semi-bluff pushes versus small stacks. And yeah, the big stack guy can totally put a huge dent here, but that's huge fold equity. Okay, so we do have 30-something plus % on that. 9s and aces. No dice. Now, guys, so we pick up ace king here in the small. It is raise from the cutoff. Make our standard re-raise here as a re-steal. get flatted, and it's a monotone board with the ace, top pair, top kicker. I'm going to check it and give him a chance to push. And he doesn't bite, and I'll make a little bit smaller bet because that didn't change much here. And now I can shove because his pot, his stack is half the size of the pot, and he lets it go. So we flatted one here with a 97 on the button. He checks to us, doesn't make a C bet. We bet into it and take it down. Alright, so the ace-9 suited. If these guys all use the entire time, we'll take forever to get around. So he raises. And again, I don't want to go 3-betting UTG raisers necessarily, especially when they don't have much left. And you can almost fold that, given his stack size, but we're going to flat here, see what comes. We're going to play hit or miss poker. If this guy just flats, yeah, we missed, and we've got to believe anything. And this guy should actually shove, even with overcards. And he only checked, well, that leads me to believe he's also on overcards. I'm going to take a shot here, and it's going to be half this guy's pot size, right? A little under pot size and half of his stack, say. And hope to take that down. Here I can test it after he checked behind, and that's kind of an intuitive play, but it smelled like weakness over cards, and the bet size was again right under pot size plus half this guy's remaining stack, and that was a play. So I'm going to go ahead and click the sit out. I'm also outside of the blinds, right? So I've caught a couple of hands for the hands that I paid for with my blinds. And again, you do not limp those big hands, right? You bet them just like you bet everything else and hope that you get play. And no play today. And what I'd like to do now is, because there were probably a couple of hands that may have been a bit unclear as to why I made certain moves, I'd like to pull those up right now on the Hold'em Manager replayer, review those, and then, yeah, check out with those hands in mind, and then show you exactly what's going on, also mathematically, kind of behind the scenes. So I'd like to end this video with a few of the most interesting hands concerning equity and lines that we played. And yeah, not all of them were one hands by any means, but a few of them actually looked maybe a little bit funky on the outside, but were based on equity actually quite sound. And that's exactly what I want to show you guys. What I want to show you guys right now. So we've got the A7 suited here in the small, under the gun min raise, 3x'd it, and we get a flat, an over flat, and right here we're getting now 4.2 to 1 odds. So only a 19% chance of hitting a playable flop, and we overcall. Good, and then we get a final overcall behind us, and the flop comes. Alright, we flop the nut flush draw, and it may well be the case that our ace is good. Versus 5 players, that may or may not be the case, because we've only got the 7 kicker. But again, we've got the nut flush draw, plus kind of a funky running straight draw that could happen. And of course, yeah, the nut flush, and then potentially then the ace. So that's what we're looking at right here. And we half pot semi bluff it out. Alright, we get one call by a short stacker, and the under the gun raiser then pops it for his entire remaining stack. Fold, fold, and it's our call. So this is the one that you guys saw in the video, and the one that I wanted to, of course, start this off with, and that's the fact that I'm getting right at 3 to 1 odds. So I only need about 25% equity to break even in the long run. Okay, so let's see exactly how this went down. I come over the top, right, to hopefully knock this guy out, and he actually calls, which in the end just adds to our total bottom line. King and then 9. Okay, let's run it back with the known cards. So this guy opens with king queen under the gun. Not a bad raise. Flat flat. We flat. The 46 decides to overflat here. He is also getting crazy odds to do so, but I mean, this is a short stack fish, right? This isn't a short stack pro. So he flats it, and here comes the flop. Yeah, we're 39% before the flop. Flop comes and we're 41, that's right. So essentially, our ace does play, as does, actually in this case, every 7 and every ace and every spade. So we've got, yeah, just a hell of a lot of equity going for us. And again, with our pre-flop, let's see, with our flop called, and ultimately we only needed 25%, right? So in this three-way pot with all that dead money, needing only 25%, knowing, you know, what our draw probably looked like, then we opted for the push over the top to knock the other guy out. He ends up jumping in there and adding to what we should have taken down at 41% of the time, basically two times in 5. And so we get it in actually ahead of both of these guys. They only have 27 and 32% respectively. And the break-even point is exactly 33. So his push is actually really, really good here for the open-ended straight draw. And our call was also completely justified, contrary to what it might have looked like in the video when you were seeing it for the first time. So, yeah, we make that call with 41% equity. You know, only needed 25, given the pot odds. And then there's a king. So he hits, and now all of a sudden we're behind. And the 9 comes, actually making his straight, but it didn't really matter because he had hit the king. So, yeah, hard luck. And in the long run, you know, when we get it all in on the flop, yeah, we're making the difference between this 25% or actual equity, right, times the pot size. So, yeah, like that. I like that call, like that line. Again, pre-flop, we're just making the overcall with pretty good odds. And, yeah, flop, what we're looking for, basically the nut flush draw, maybe the overcard ace pull, and, yeah, there you go. Basically a 12 outer, flush draw, and the top pair. And again, you guys see, I mean, 12 out draws, yeah, they've got their merit equity-wise on the flop. Call it all in, get it in really good. So king-queen here in the cutoff, UTG razor, we flat, and we get another caller right here. So he checks, the pre-flop aggressor makes his c-bet, and we have a 10 jack, queen king, an open-ended straight draw on a rainbow board. So we've got 8 clean outs, and the queen and the king may be good, right? If these guys are on under pairs, any kind of yeah, jack 8, jack knife, something like that. Yeah, so yeah, we have at least 8 clean outs, we would assume, right? And again, the king or the queen may be good here. So let's see what we got. Also, you know, ace jack, for example, that would definitely be on somebody's list. Of course, the jack queen, jack king would nullify our overcard draw, but at least the open-ended straight draw. And these guys, this guy's, you know, mid-stack player, and this guy over here does have us a little bit scared, but we don't want to be fooling around. So yeah, this is an aggressive move. We shove on the flop with maximum equity with our draw here. And we're actually thinking that this guy's going to check out after his check, and we want to just, yeah, actually take this down with the semi-bluff push. Yeah, versus, in our mind, basically only one player. And so he folds, as we expected, and this fellow then calls, and we miss, unfortunately. And he shows down, then I think, yeah, kings. Okay, so how does it look pre-flop to river? So pre-flop, yeah, kings are, of course, versus a complete domination here with king-queen. Yeah, right at 91% ahead. That's a very common case also with queens versus queen-jack, for example, same principle. If we did have the ace-king, though, we would be at 30% plus-minus. He bets it out, we flat, and here, all of a sudden, you know, we get up to 32% for our open-ended straight draw. In this case, the king and the queen do not play, of course. And yeah, if he's again on ace jack, yeah, any kind of weaker jack here, yeah, we're looking really, really good. So yeah, again with this shove, yeah, I like it. You know, we basically here's our flat call for 31%. We could just call that flat and then wait for the next card, right? That's possible. Yeah, and then I guess check out when he shoves, or we can go ahead and make the aggressive move right now. And that's what we opt for in this case, thinking that we actually have fold equity. He's making a c-bet maybe with overs that he could let go. And yeah, we shove that all in with 32% equity to the river, knowing his holding, right? And against his entire range. I think I'll pull that up in Poker Stove just to kind of bring this point home. Exactly, yeah, 68% to 32 more or less. So you can see that definitely corresponds here. Hold'em Manager Replayer and Poker Stove. Good, but this guy, we don't know that he's on kings, And on this board, this 10-2 jack rainbow, he did open under the gun, but what's the under the gun, open raise range? Some guys even this wide, And yeah, then he c-bets, c-bets a lot. Let's go ahead and do this. Yeah, and we even with our open and a straight draw, we've got 45% against his entire range, and he's going to be folding a lot of that, right? Versus basically a raise versus his c-bet on the flop. So with fold equity plus an estimated 45% equity in general against his entire range, if we tighten that up, let's say he's not raising any pair, but something like this. Yeah, kind of tighten him up like this and give him a 12% range for under the gun. Then even then, we're at 40% plus fold equity. And yeah, it's a bit of a variance play, but it's something that you can definitely do, and I think you can also do it profitably in the long run. Alright, and last two hands and we'll call this a wrap. We've got 98 suited on the button. Min raised here in the hijack. We flat with position and a decent speculation or speculative hand. Good. We flop again. Actually, the example hand that I had shown you guys in the earlier portion of this video, the theoretical portion, where we have in our mind probably all 9 outs for the heart draw, for the flush draw, and we've got all 4 for the 7 for the inside straight draw. And in that case, of course, we've got our 12 outer again, and this guy is on a relatively small stack, and he then just shoves given the pot size, and that's a good idea. So we then flat, and the question is, was that right or wrong? So what are our odds here? We're getting basically 1.34 to 1. Alright, so we're calling essentially 3 on 435 pot. And yeah, we need 43% equity to break even in the long run. Alright, we flat that. 5 comes and then the queen. And yeah, we're not sure about how this is going to go here given the 2-paired board. We do end up taking it down with our flush versus his, at this point, queens up, ace kicker hand. And let's look at this here, knowing their whole cards. Alright. It is raised up, we flat. There comes the flop, and look at this, guys. We both missed, right? We both missed his flop. So essentially, he's on overcards, so that's about 24% to the river, given his draw. But yeah, there's some other stuff going on here. Most importantly, of course, that he is theoretically ahead of us right now, and that means if we don't hit any of our outs coming into the turn, this is going to change dramatically because we both missed, right? But in this case, ironically enough, also the 8 and the 9 outs are good for us. That's why we're at 62% equity. So we're looking at a 9 outer for the flush, right? All 4 sevens minus the 7 of hearts. So that's going to put us up to 12, as we had, plus 3, right? For 18 outs, it looks like in this case. And an 18 outer with 18 clean outs is exactly around 62% to the river. Yeah, you guys are going to see how this works out here equity-wise. We have 18 outs on that flop. Pretty crazy. And so he pushes. However, yeah, we didn't count our 8 and 9 outs, of course, not knowing his holding, but here we can. And yeah, we put ourselves actually on the 12 outer. And I think I also mentioned that in the video. And the turn comes, and look at that. Drops a full 21% in equity when we miss that one of our 18 outs here on the turn. However, we've still got the 18 outs, and we got 41% coming into the river. And there's one of them. So we take down that small pot. But it's a really interesting hand, I think, for a lot of guys out there, not knowing the strength of these draws and plays that you can make based on that. So last hand, guys. We've got the old Jack Queen of Hearts and just flat in a blind battle. So we've got position on all post-flop streets. Got a decent speculative hand, again suited Broadway. and we opt, instead of just 3-betting this directly, we opt for the flat versus this mid-stacker. Alright, we flop overs, and he makes a standard half-pot c-bet, and we make a typical float move. This is our float line. So we just flat his c-bet on the flop. He then makes a bet, right? So if he checks, we bet it, and if he bets, we push it. And that's a very typical in-position float line. You can also play exactly the same way with nonsense, with any two, ace, king, stuff like that. Under pairs, over pairs, a lot of stuff. You'll be able to get away with this, especially versus big stack players, quite a bit. But in this case, we hit our queen and decide to go ahead and continue this float move here. When he bets, we just raise it all in. He does call it. And we get to the showdown, and he shows us the 7 Jack O clubs. So this is not a mid-stack professional, it's a mid-stack fish. And let's look at this here again when we know everybody's cards. So we've got a situation, typical domination situation, where you have the highest card of your opponent plus a better kicker pre-flop, and it's almost always a 70-30 split. In this case, it has to do with the suitedness and connectedness here. So we're about 72% equity here to the river. He raises, we flat, and there's the flop, and then it drops even lower down to 18. And so again, we make this flat call, and then when the queen comes, it stays similar because he picks up a flush draw to boot. And that's about it. Coming into the river right at 20% when he knows our cards. He bets, we push, get it in for 80% equity, and take down the little pot. So ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our second video in the Storm Poker Challenge for mybet.com. As always, if you have any questions or comments concerning these videos, please feel free to contact us at any time. And one final time, I do apologize for the parts of this video that may have been a bit dry. I think it was a necessary evil and definitely useful for a lot of novice and recreational players out there who are relatively new to the game and don't have this theoretical background. For those of you who are quite advanced and for whom this is all basically a recap or something that you already well knew, don't worry. The future videos are going to be all action. We're going to start up our third video here in the Riders of the Storm series with a 2-storm cash game table session, and we're going to call that getting into the lineup, kind of getting used to the break, running two cash game tables simultaneously. Then our fourth video in the series is going to be basically a combination of tournament and cash game play together, so that you can optimize your win rates, optimize at least the total hands that you're playing, especially when you're clearing bonuses, when you're playing your tournaments and then running simultaneous cash games. That's going to be the case very often. You're just going to be hanging out, and you can definitely maximize that time at the machine by playing especially Storm cash game tables, since they are so fast, as you guys just saw. And of course, from then on out, we're going to be dropping in and just riding freely 4 Storm cash tables per video as a bare minimum, I promise. No theoretical intro, and just going for it. So that's what's in store for you guys. Again, I do hope you enjoy it. I hope you got a lot out of it. Also, if it were just a recap, I hope that it was useful. And I think definitely some of these spots, some of these theoretical example hands, will be certainly educational, even for quite advanced players, concerning the equities, the equity matchups, the math behind it, and how strong your draws can be equity-wise, even when you completely quote-unquote whiff the flop. Those 12 and 15 outers plus, guys, those are strong flops, and you now know how to push them, win, lose, or draw. So again, this is Dylan for mybet.com, wishing you all the best, and definitely best of luck at your next Storm table.